Hey everyone, this is Mike, the lead designer and developer for Melee Masters, and this will just be a quick video as a supplement to and a follow-up to the Melee Masters demo release. So this latest version includes a fix that allows the demo to work with the official Wii U adapter and not just the Mayflash adapter. So since most people that use this adapter already have VJoy and the GCN adapter set up, you shouldn't need to do everything. But included in with the build, there's the executables to install VJoy and I think it's called wii-u USB. And those are necessary to help you get it set up. If you're not familiar with those, there's a README in there that goes through everything. But the basics of it is you install the wii-u USB adapter, a program called Zadig pops up, and it's going to tell you um, to assign or install a new driver for the Wii U adapter. The Wii U adapter's name is WUP-028, and then under the driver section, it's going to show the old driver with an arrow and the new driver, and the new driver should be WinUSB, and then a bunch of numbers. There's a lot of videos that go over it. The README has the exacts on it, and then you just click Replace Driver. After the install finishes, and also just a quick interrupt, this is what worked for me to get it to work for me. So if your current setup's not working, you might want to try uninstalling it and reinstalling it. Yeah, so after it finishes setting up the driver for it, it's going to try to install VJoy. The Wii U USB executable install, the first one in there, you want to stop the VJoy install, exit out, and then manually install VJoy using the VJoy installer that's in with the build, or in with the download. Install that, and you shouldn't have to do anything special. Just click yes on everything, next, finish. After that's set up, what I like to do to test it is open up the monitor VJoy, and then go to your desktop, launch the GCN adapter feeder, I think it's called, which was installed with the Wii U USB executable. And once that's running, that allows the GameCube to feed inputs to VJoy. And so what the VJoy monitor allows you to do is check the ports to make sure your controls are actually going through. I've personally had a problem where plugging two GameCube controllers into the adapter just breaks it and it crashes, but other people haven't had this problem. The only additional problem is the ports, and it seems to be different for a lot of people, so I don't think there's a general rule. But for me, port 2 is player 1, port 1 is player 2, and then the rest are normal. Someone else brought up that port 1 was player 1, port 4 was player 2. So if you're not getting controls, even though the VJoy monitor shows you sending inputs, try to mess around with the ports. This still has the issue of free-for-all will show up for controllers because it thinks all the ports are connected. So there's a button on the free-for-all screen to remove to remove the edge player. So it loads up 4 players. You hit the button, it'll remove player 4, then 3, then 2. I mean, you could play with one person, and the game won't end until you jump off the ledge. I actually don't know. I really want to use that for debugging. But, yeah, that's the basics of getting it set up. One important aspect of this is the controls. So, my GameCube controller, when using the Mayflash adapter, it reads this as 1.0 in the Mayflash adapter. Through VJoy, it reads this as 0.8. So I did set up a custom controller config. It'll read the name of your controller, and it should set it up. If it doesn't, I really recommend playing with the max control stick sensitivity or going into VJoy and configuring your controller. I use the defaults for everything, and I configured it in-game to work with the VJoy defaults. But I encourage you to go in to make sure you can hit the full range. Because this really affects the feel of the game. Like, I couldn't platform drop because it couldn't go above 0.8, which 0.8 was the activation point for platform drops. So I changed those to be a bit more customizable in game. Same with the C-stick sensitivity. Before it was again 0.8, but this controller actually couldn't hit that going through VJoy. So I really encourage you to play around with the controls and find what fits for you. I wanted it to be that way because I could never account for all the way all controllers feel, and I don't want the game to feel like sluggish or unresponsive to you just because your controller reads slightly different than mine. So yeah, in addition to the build, there's a debug log file that'll print out all the controllers plugged in, because people have been having problems where they just want to play with an Xbox controller, and they have nothing else plugged in, but the game doesn't read the Xbox player as player 1, and it needs to. So if that happens to you, I encourage you to send me an email or join the Discord, and there's a debug log file. I'll leave a name to it somewhere in this video and in the description. And that debug log file will contain a printout of your controllers plugged in, so I can help you debug like getting those disconnected so you could actually play. But in the future, I'd like to make it so you could prioritize a certain controller type, and it'll read from there. So VJoy, for instance, will always read in the first like 4 or 5 player slots. So even though I have an Xbox controller plugged in, and it says player 1, it's not actually player 1, because when I read through all the lists of joysticks, there's 6 joysticks, and this is number 6, even though it's the only Xbox controller. So that's going to take a bit more time to implement. I don't know how soon I'll have an answer on that, but I do have the debugging in there. So if, for instance, even though VJoy, you could unplug the adapter, VJoy has a driver. I'll put a screenshot up of it called VJoy. Actually, I don't remember the name, but I'll show a screenshot here for it, and that will always say that there's a controller plugged in for VJoy, and that'll always eat up the player 1 slot. So you have to disable that driver in your device manager if you want to use an Xbox controller, but you don't want to uninstall VJoy, or you might have to uninstall and then reinstall VJoy. Unfortunately, the Wii U adapter will never be able to support natively. Like, you have to go through GCN or VJoy. The Mayflash adapter is supported natively because it like something internally just like tells the computer the hardware's like name and identifier information. The Wii U controller doesn't have that without third-party drivers, and it never will. So I encourage you, if you want to, continue with this game, the Mayflash adapter is probably the best bet, and they are fairly cheap. But if you still want to use the Wii U adapter, this is the build for you. So this has been a bit more long-winded than what I would have liked, but yeah, definitely check it out. This video was really only meant for people that need help with the Wii U adapter, but there's some other stuff in there. The build also features some IASA, or some end lag cancelable frames on Nixa and Quake. That'll take a bit more toying with jabs that link, like Quake's, to actually make work properly, so you could like jab and then delayed second jab, third jab. But it makes the animations flow cleaner. I just responded to some feedback on just the general animations for certain moves. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this build. I'm constantly... I'll leave a link to the Discord in the description. I have a Discord set up, and if you have any problems, concerns you'd like to address me with, that's probably the best... Well, I wouldn't say it's the best place for it, but if you need, like, instant communication, like, hey, my game's just not working or something, sorry, I'll be there to, help debug it. And, yeah, and any other general feedback, you could give it there to me, but I prefer you do it on the subreddit, so it's easy to find for me. It's, permanent. I could go back a day, instead of other people talking in the Discord. And I do make announcements in there. Sometimes I'll release an earlier version of the build in there for people to test out, because I don't have QA testers other than myself, and there's so much that could go wrong. It's hard for me to test everything, and while also releasing things in a timely manner. So, yeah, I apologize for those of you who wanted to play the demo that couldn't, but now hopefully you have the ability to. So, thank you, and I hope you enjoy.